Fighting Illini basketball has two players that go in the first round of the 2025 NBA draft. We're going to talk a little bit about their reactions going back-to-back from the head coach. We're also going to talk about one of the star recruits for Illini basketball and what it means for the team. We're also going to look at Bret's comments on Kirby Smart and Georgia tampering with an Illini football player and the recruiting class coming up for Illini football. We're going to discuss all that and more on today's Fighting Illini Central. What's going on, Illini? Welcome to another episode of Fighting Illini Central, your number one spot for everything Illini basketball and football related. My name is Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow me at CEO Hayes on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into this content for today, y'all. And yeah, man, it was a big night for Illini basketball. I do know I apologize for leaving you guys without a pod for a couple of weeks between NBA basketball, WNBA. I covered the Sky as well. The Chicago Bulls, Bears, everything going on. It's been a hectic time period, but we're back locked in, and we're going to go over this news and everything to go on. But Brad Underwood, he had two players being drafted in the first round. And when you look at Kasparas, Jakučionis, who went to the Miami Heat, and Will Riley going to the Washington Wizards, I think both these players have went to the teams that very well are good for them. The Miami Heat definitely need a point guard, and they need a point guard that has the ability to distribute, rebound, set up the offense, especially in a fast break. I think Bam and Khalil Ware are going to love playing with Kasparas, Jakučionis. The thing is Jakučionis' offense is a little bit inconsistent right now. And I think with having Tyler Hero, Bam, and the players that they have there, it could afford Kasparas an opportunity to really kind of grow his offense more naturally, but double down on the things that he does really well at the NBA level. And I think that's a really good spot for him to go to at number 20 to the Miami Heat. Now, that's if he plays. And I want to be clear here, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, they're really kind of inconsistent on how they use rookies. Sometimes they use rookies right away. Sometimes it's more of a slow burn for those guys. You look at somebody like Jaime Jaquez, who was basically in the rotation right away. But then you turn around and look at Khalil Ware, their pick from the previous year, who was a slow go until about halfway through the season. But I think with Kasparas bringing a position of need that they have at point guard position, it really goes that he's going to have an opportunity to really carve out a role for himself with that Miami Heat team. Then you look at Will Riley, who went one spot behind Kasparas at number 21 to the Washington Wizards. The Wizards are a team in the NBA that have really kind of changed the direction of their core, getting rid of some big contract players, bringing back veterans on expiring deals, and building a nice young nucleus of players there. They just traded for Cam Whitmore yesterday as well. But they have a nice young core of talent down there with Trey Johnson, who they drafted as well. I think the Wizards are starting to really focus on that young talent and getting them to the next level, which I think is going to be really good for the players. And Will Riley's going to have an opportunity to carve out a role for himself there too, with so many young players on that team and their clear focus on development. Their GM the president, I think, of basketball ops, actually spent 15 years with the OKC Thunder, so he understands the process of building a team with the vision and development, and it really feels like he's bringing some of that over to the Washington Wizards, who've sorely needed kind of that focus with their franchise for a while now. I think that's smart for them. I think they made a really smart decision in getting him under there. And so, Brad Underwood, he talked about his guys being drafted. He said this: proud is an understatement. It's only the beginning. And that's really good. When you look at what Brad Underwood has done here over the last few years, right? Having guys like Ayo Dosunmu and Brendan Podziemski, both guys who have carved out roles for themselves already in the NBA, that were the two players drafted by NBA teams since Underwood have taken over. Those guys, and Ayo is one of the better two-way players on that Chicago Bulls team, staying in Chicago where he's from. And Podziemski was a role player on that Golden State Warriors team. Now, I will say this: he has to have a much better season or a postseason than what he had in the playoffs this year, but he's still a guy that's really clearly a player now in the NBA. Jakučionis and Will Riley are going to have that opportunity ahead of them as well, going into the next level in the NBA. I love the teams that they went to for their skill set and their skill level. And we actually got to hear about both those guys and their thoughts after being drafted back-to-back as well. And you can tell these guys really love each other as teammates, and that's really good to see. They're both going to have to carve out and fight hard for themselves. I want to be clear there. It's not going to be easy for them, either one of them at the NBA level. They both have things that they definitely need to work on to become those players that they have the potential of being at the next level. And Kasparas, for what it's worth, he said this afterwards: it's crazy, to be honest. Like last year, I didn't expect it would be this moment, like you said, going one after another. And I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy we both made it. And but like I said, it's just the beginning for something new. I just want to start working. And then, Riley said this, I feel like, the one and done era, I feel like we did it. Me and him, together we fought through, we did our best for Illinois. And you did. Now keep doing your best, representing the University of Illinois, going out and doing your thing at the NBA level, because I think that both these guys have really good potential to be NBA players. And I'm not going to say either one of them are going to necessarily turn into a star or anything like that. I don't know if that happens, but I think that they both have a really big chance of making impacts at the next level for what it's worth. But with that said, let's talk about one of the better athletes in the recruiting class of 2026 for the Fighting Illini, both in football and in basketball for that matter, and that's Nasir Rankin. Now, this is a guy who recruited at football, right? Is already committed to the Illini. He's going to play football. He was a big recruit there, but he's also going to be able to play basketball for the Fighting Illini. And this is what kind of when you look at what Underwood has done, he's had some solid recruiting classes, and that's really what you want to see there is those solid recruiting classes that you continually add and things like that, and that just help you continue to build your team on out. And that's what it's going to come down to for Rankin, right? Rankin, who was, he's a really great athlete, and he's a guy that is more, of course, more recruited in football than what he is in basketball, right? But I think when you look at it, with the Illini being projected to have a top 20 class in 2026, Rankin is one of the guys that's at the top of that class, right? 6'1", 174-pound athlete when it comes down to it. He's going to play basketball and football. He was ranked as the number 84th player in the class of 2026, number 9th athlete in the country, and number 2 player coming out of the state of Illinois overall, right? Going to school in Morgan Park. You already know what that means, right? He's likely to be a wide receiver when he enters college. And so that's really good. And while he's a football and basketball recruit, this is a guy that you have to hold on to for both sports. Now, two-sport athletes in NCAA have not always done the best, right? You had a guy like Walter Young, who was a star on the football team, but kind of a role player on the basketball roster. He didn't get much playing time at all. Then you have a guy like Julius Peppers, for example, for North Carolina, who was a star football player, went on to make it to the Hall of Fame in the NFL, but he also was a solid enough basketball player, averaging 7 points, 4 rebounds before deciding to focus on football. Where's Nasir Rankin going to be there, right? So on the basketball side of things, he's not ranked nationally, but I do think that he's a guy that can come in and help what Underwood's trying to do there. But more importantly, he is part of that draft class for 2026 that's really important for Illini football, and I can't wait to see what he brings to this one. He has a whole nother year of high school football left ahead of him, and high school basketball for that matter. But I think this is a guy that his skill set is really gonna move over, and he's part of the reason why the Illini are gonna have a top 10 class. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about of that class in a second, but I want to get into some of head coach Bret's and his comments in regards to Kobe Smart and Georgia stealing away a player last year. And when you look at Josh McCray, who was a running back last year, Bret did not mix words, and I love having a head coach that just shoots it straight. He said this: "We did lose a guy to Georgia. Somehow he found his way to the portal, and 12 hours after being in the portal, he was on a flight to Georgia. I don't know how that happened, but it's crazy. Wish Josh the best. He took advantage of that opportunity." And I think one can't deny how much tampering is a thing in NCAA football. It just is. In college football, it's a thing. And Bret does believe that his team was a victim to that, and it is what it is, right? But for what it's worth, we're going up with the next man up mentality. Like, he's very confident in Illini football and how successful we can be at the running back position. And Bret continues to just have solid recruiting classes, right? So shifting the focus, looking at the recruiting class of 2026, for example, like right now, the Fighting Illini are projected to have a top 20 class. I think they're right now ranked at number 18th overall. So while you're not probably going to see a top 15, top 10 class, something like that, but when you continually recruit and have top 20 classes back to back to back, you start stacking some of those guys, and you have that talent there, that's how you build a solid program. And that's what Bret has been really good about doing since he came here, is having solid enough recruiting classes that you look back on after years and you're like, we've had some really good talent in here. And that's how you could attract other talent, whether it be through the transfer portal or anything like that. This is a team that I think that what the Illini are doing here with their recruiting classes is just setting themselves up to have really solid teams. Now, coaching is going to come down to that. Development is going to come down to how much more that you can see that. But I think the ceiling for that 2026 recruiting class probably is top 20. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, I would love to say we had a top 10, top 15 recruiting class, but that's just not where we are right now, this point and stance of the franchise. But I think when you look at it, like, you're going to get there eventually. And I think that you just got to keep doing what you've been doing, right? And when you look at the number of recruiting, classes that we have overall and where everything sits, it's solid enough. It's solid enough. The number of 4-star recruits, 3-star recruits that we've had, we're starting to stack that talent here. And that's really all you want to see. And that should be the goal for right now. Now, I think getting to higher recruiting classes over time is definitely should be the goal of any college football program, and you'll get there when it comes down to it. The Illini have right now an average recruiting grade of 87.86. That's according to 24/7 Sports, which puts us at number 23, right? But I think they have a chance to get very high, higher than that when it comes down to it. And you're just setting it up right now. We're going to be somewhere in the top 20, I feel like, and that's just where it is when it comes down to it, right? So Illini football is doing their thing. They're making the most of it in which they can. And that's all you really have. Of course, I love hearing them call out Kirby Smart and Georgia for tampering. I love just the attitude that Bret has as a head coach with football. I think you need a guy that has that identity, and that's important. A guy that's going to shoot it straight and not take any bullshit. And that's what Bret has been for Illini. And I don't see that changing anytime soon when it comes down to it. They're going to continue fighting. They're going to continue trying to have their solid enough recruiting classes. And they're going to get their guys, and he's going to develop them and put them in the right situation where we play tough, hard-nosed football, and we find our success where we can find it. And for me, that's good enough. So you guys can let me know how you feel on that down below. Quick update episode. Again, like I said before, episodes are going to be much longer once we get to actual games being played in basketball and football, which are getting here sooner rather than later. So make sure you guys stay in tune with us on that one. Love you guys. You guys can follow us. We don't have any social media yet for the show, so you can follow me personally at CEO Hayes. You can also check out my other podcast, Chicago Bears Central, Chicago Bulls Central, NBA Central, Chicago Sky Central, if you're a fan of any of those teams. But love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.